as soon as it hits 1 day at D3, then that kicks in the livestock forage program, and then this emergency livestock water, for hauling, transporting water and stuff. So the best is to just double check with that office and stuff. These are kind of statewide programs and stuff, but I know for Cole County, we're in that D2, we're getting close, on that, but it's got to be county precipitation averages less than 60% of normal for a period of the previous 4 months plus the days of the current month. So that's why we say the 8 consecutive weeks. I don't know where they are at as of today for Cole County and stuff, but I know we're getting, somewhat close. So if the precipitation doesn't come, we may be in that situation and stuff, so. They're not in a D3. They may have hit the D2 for 8 consecutive weeks, so they may not have yet hit D3, but it's an automatic when it hits that. So they're probably at the, they probably hit the 8 consecutive weeks, so.
Does it have to be the whole county or part of the county or just your area? Or?
I think as long as one part of the county, if I remember what I was told today, if one part of the county reaches the D2, or the, for the livestock forage program, so.
Bonnie, do you know the answer to that?
For the state cost share, it is once it does hit D2. If any sliver of the county hits a D2, then they qualify for state cost share. I know it's hard to see here, but Cole County is just the very northern tip, so that's why Cole County would qualify for state cost share. I'm not real sure about the FSA. I was thinking it was the same thing. And then the other thing too with the state cost share, once the county hits the D2 level, and if the rains, when they do come, and if it falls back down to like a D1 or D0, they still will qualify for the state cost share assistance until that executive order expires.
All right, any other questions? All right, thanks Wendy for inviting us. If you guys have any questions, call the office. If you don't remember the office, you can contact Bonnie, down in Miller County there, and she can help transfer you up there and help, give us some information and stuff, so.
Bonnie, you got anything you want to say? Or
I did print off a few copies of the transport news release that MoDOT had. I didn't look at it, so we have that up here. You would want us to copy of that. And then in Miller County, although we're not a part of the drought D2 at this time, we still have our regular cost share practices that are available. If you need anything in Miller County, just give us a call and we'll try to work with you.
thank you guys, we appreciate it.
That's not the drought. There's been a lot of times in the summer we have been dry. And there's been times in the summer we've been drier than this. But I don't ever remember going in this short of hay. So what's happened? Well, what's really happened is we live in an area where we live off of cool season grass. And we grow a bunch of it in the spring to get us through the summer. We try to grow a bunch more in the fall to get us through as far as we can into the winter. Well, good old Mother Nature forgot to have a cool season for us this spring. We went from a cold season to a hot season. And our fescue and stuff never got a chance to grow. And I'm sure most of you are like me, depending on what field it was, had a half to 2/3 crop of hay. Now, the poor guys that buy all their hay, and normally that's the way to go because you can buy it cheaper than what you can put it up, they probably don't have a half crop of hay right now. So what are we going to do to try to get through? It doesn't really matter how we got there anymore. What are we going to do? So the easy thing is sell all the cows and buy them back next spring. Sell what hay you got, take your money, go south for the winter, all that kind of good stuff. Some guys tried that in 2012, and it didn't work out real good for all of them. And here's kind of what happened then. Okay, so you sold them cows in the fall. The next spring, you didn't have no high-priced calves to sell. And when you went to buy them cows back, you could have been one of them guys out there paying $3,000 to $3,500 for a good cow. And now, if you bring them back into Wendy, I don't think she's going to give you $3,000 back. It's going to be more like $600, ain't it? And so the bankers may not want to go through this again, because some of them $600 cows never did make the $3,000 back. So I fought 12. I put up silage and everything, and I was going to frame this and put it on the wall somewhere, but my calf check from up here, I took the top off because I've done this several other places, but that old bull in the center kind of
I like that.
kind of gives it off, and 320, and you know, I thought I kept that one. It may never be better. Let's put it that way. I got that check because I found a way to get my cows through the winter. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be the same way, but I do know there's very few people out there keeping backbred heifers now. There's a lot of cows going to town. Whoever gets their cattle through the spring is planning on putting them on grass and keeping them, I'm pretty sure. So when you go to buy them cows back in the spring, I'm not exactly for sure where they're going to come from. And one thing that makes this drought so much different than anything we've been through before is the way it came up. It hit cattle country, it did not hit crop country. That is a blessing for us. You can buy feed still reasonable. Okay, so what are we going to talk about? Pasture management, calf management, cow management, forage management. That's a lot of management for a guy like me. I told him when I got my new boss, he had 5 guys to manage, and one of them was damn unmanageable. So I didn't know what he was going to do, but have fun with the others. He may prove the difference, you know, but that was the first thing. I worked with Todd for a long time now. Okay, so pasture management. These guys have been sitting here. I'm a firm believer in their programs. It's a thing that saved me in 12, and it's a thing that's saving me now. My ponds are going dry and everything. I have probably put in 6 or 7 miles worth of water lines and stuff with the help of their funds. And it is nice that some cattle have good water. Most of them do, because between the water, the dry, and everything, and believe it or not, and I know everybody lives in the driest part in the world, but these guys come see me today and they said, "You weren't lying, you are dry." We've been missing it. Okay, so pasture management. What can we do there? We can help out with some tubs. High protein tubs help get more out of your forage, but they don't extend it, and they don't replace forage. So if we have corn stalks, we have rough hay, we have straw, we have some of that kind of stuff we're improving, they're good. If somebody tells you, buy my high protein tub, it'll make your grass go longer, they're lying to you, because what it does is help them digest the grass, and they'll eat more junk and everything. It's not going to extend it. Cubes will help, commodities, and I'll show you some rations and everything. Corn protein. Limiters, I've seen some of them out there, and sometimes you're paying very, very little for that convenience. Okay, so it's easier for me to tell you to feed stuff because I'm hard-headed to feed mine. I realize it. gonna do is we need to find a cheap way to get through. We don't wanna go buy a bunch of bunks, change everything to get through between now and next spring. My hope we don't see another one like this. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But what we started doing here probably a month ago, and it's made a lot of difference. As those pastures got down where they were crummy, I started feeding a mixture of amino gain feed I had for my calves, and I had corn in the bin, about half and half. We started pouring it to all the animals under 3-year-olds. Then the other day we started going to the cows as the pastures give out. Pretty much parked the brush hog, because as I've gone in there and fed in them pastures and gave them proper nutrition, they have ate everything in there. They've ate weeds I've never seen them eat before and everything. And to be honest with you, the cows have looked pretty good. And so what I've tried to do is stretch each pasture out another week, where I normally would have when they got bad like that with brush hog and prettied them up and everything. I'm trying to get as far out as I can. And like I said, we didn't have enough bunks, and that must be the one pasture on my farm didn't have electric fence on it. Because we used to do feed over, so he put a temporary electric fence out there. And for some of you guys that are getting like me, don't move quite as fast as they used to and everything, don't want to get run over by cows, cows respect that electric fence. They don't crowd in on you too much. You can park at the end of it, go feed them. That's got a mixture with some fine distillers in it. You look at where those cows have been eating, they eat every speck of it up. Okay. So now, for 44 years, I've been telling people you can't afford to feed corn. I've showed this slide, I don't know how many times, probably in every presentation I've ever given for a winter deal. You can't afford to feed corn to cows. But I usually try to put in there, except if we don't have forage. This is probably the biggest difference this year, is corn has still stayed reasonably cheap. We don't have forage. I never in my wildest imagination dreamed people would pay more for grass hay than they would corn. And we're doing it now. Probably twice the energy in that corn. You don't have it, it's not hard to move. It goes in a truck, it comes down. You can have an old wagon bed you put it in, you can dump it in the corner of the barn, you can do whatever. Since the drought hasn't hit crop country, corn is very good. And you look at the reasons we didn't feed it. What was one of the biggest things? What's that?
Corn is cheaper right now.
Yeah. You can buy corn, depending on what kind of volume you want it in, between $140, $150 a ton probably. And what are we talking about in this hay? You can hardly buy any kind of hay for that. So what we need to do is figure out, we can't just feed straight corn. So we need to figure out how to do it. Now this is a slide I always use to tell y'all not to feed corn in during cows. And when I get up north, it's harder to get because everybody's got a bin full of corn. I have some bin of corn in my bin too, and I don't usually feed it. Because what does it do? It knocks the heck out of forage intake. And forage is always our cheapest thing. We're trying to feed. What do we want now? Something to knock the heck out of forage intake. We'll lose a little bit of digestibility in it, but the way things are now, it more than makes up for it. Hey boss, I put all of our stuff up here. Write that check when we're done, okay? Any questions on that part? We got quite a bit more we'll cover.
So my name's Carl Schreier. I'm from Warren County, and I agree with that map there. It's wrong. My dad last week cut one of his bean fields because it wasn't doing very well, and we got about half the hay that we're going to need. So I need a clicker here, Bill. Or are you going to click it for me? So one of these days that map will get updated. So for the calf management, One of the biggest things that we can do is creep feed. Take a little bit of pressure off of that cow and give that calf some extra nutrition, because the way your guys' pastures look here and back home, there's nothing there for them to eat anyways, and then you'll have something to sell. There's several different options that we offer. Early weaning is another option. I'm going to go with that in a little bit. But when you think about these calves and how much they eat, calves are going to eat 4 to 10 pounds of hay or grass or whatever you're feeding them. So when you're looking to stretch your forage, if you don't have that pressure on your forage supply, then that's going to help you out in the long run. So this here is a picture of Bill's farm. He's got a creep gate up here that the calves can get to that the cows can't. A little better bale of hay there, then he hand feeds them.
Red thing, you really don't have to walk up for each time?
It's a habit though. I like moving around. So this here was a study that I got on drovers or beef feedlots somewhere here. And this was a study done on early weaning. And they wanted to try and see how calves did in a feedlot early weaning. So they did, here we go. So they did a study, and they weaned 243 spring-born calves. They were 113 days of age. They put them in a feedlot, then they tried to get them to gain 1 pound, 2 pounds, and 3 pounds. And they had a very, very, I would call it a successful test or trial, whatever you want to call it. The calves pretty well gained what they wanted to, and the amount of fever that they had was 5% or less. So early weaning like that, getting them off your pastures, is going to help you out. And the other thing is, that they say in here is that wean in 180 days or less is one of the easiest ways to reduce cow nutrient requirements and improve cow body condition. So that's one thing that always gets forgotten in this, is your cow body condition. If she gets out of condition, she's not going to breed, and it takes a lot more money to get her back into shape than if we just kept her in there in the first place. Cow management. So now we're going to go into cows. We just talked about one thing. Keep your cow in good condition. One way to do that is to worm your cows. We always do it in the spring of the year, and we normally do it going into winter. But if you miss something or you haven't done it in a while, you should probably worm your cows. There are ways you can put your wormer in with your mineral. Up to the ADM dealers, they can fill you in. But make sure your cows are free of worms, so you're feeding the cow, not the parasites. Another option some people have is call your open cows. That's for every producer to decide that that's a good strategy or not. Keep her in good condition, we talked about that one. And the other question that we get into here in a little bit, we're trying to get her to eat less, and we're trying to conserve forages. So what are cows' needs versus what do they want? So if you put a cow out in the wintertime and you put a bale of brome hay out there, she eats 25 pounds. Is that what she needs? Or is that what she wants? If you put straw out there, she'll probably eat 17 pounds or something like that. And so when you look at what cows need, this is a slide that we had, and this is dry cows, third-term pregnancies. A 1,200-pound cow needs 10 pounds of TDN and about 1.5 pounds of protein. Now everyone asks us, well, from a nutritionist standpoint, what the hell are you talking about? 10 pounds of TDN and 1.5 pounds of protein. So one of our PhDs back in the office said, well, here you go. A pound of protein is 25 pounds of straw, 5.5 pounds of alfalfa, or 2 pounds of soybean meal. So if a cow eats 2 pounds of soybean meal, she is meeting her protein requirement. If she eats 25 pounds of straw, she is meeting her protein requirement. And then the same thing for TDN. 18 pounds of alfalfa, 25 pounds of straw, 11 pounds of corn will give her her TDN or energy needs that she needs to get through the day. The other thing, I had someone call me today, and they wanted to look at buying some alfalfa hay, and then I asked them how they were going to feed it. And they're like, well, we're just going to put it out in the bale ring like we always do. And I was like, well, that's a good idea. It's easy, but it's going to cost you more. So the better hay that you have, free choice to that cow, the more that cow is going to eat of it. And so if you look at high quality roughage, those cows will eat 2.5% their body weight. If you have low quality forage, they're going to eat 1.8%. So when you're looking at stretching your forage and you have good hay, it might be wise to invest in a bale unroller, a bale processor, mix it with something else, whatever you can do to limit how much that cow gets, so that she's not eating what she wants, she's eating what she needs. And we have some rations here in a little bit that'll kind of go over the difference between what cows need versus what they want. Kind of like kids when they go to the candy store. They want 5 Snicker bars, but give them that many, they'll get sick. The other thing is rumensin. This wasn't in the slides that we did earlier in the last week, but rumensin is cleared for cows, 50 to 200 milligrams per head per day. The energetic gain is equivalent to feeding an additional 1.5 to 2 pounds of corn. So if you put rumensin in that commodity mix that you're feeding, you can get an extra kick or an extra boost from feeding that. It also is going to help out with coccidiosis, loads in cows. That's something where if you're going to bring your cows in to dry lot them and you got some fall calvers, it's something to be mindful of. Scours and coccidiosis, rumensin should help out with that. So feed rumensin.
Going by, you know, I don't know if we can buy hay right now. I have a funny feeling there'll be hay come available later on. Silage. A week ago today, I said I'm not cutting silage. Friday, I was digging a pit, and over the weekend, it got full of silage. I react to what I have to do. I got 350 cows at home that's got to eat something. I baled 300 big bales of straw. I said I didn't want to feed straw. I made a deal the other day for 150 acres of corn stalks. I guess I'm going to bale corn stalks. You know, we just got to do what we got to do to get by. Silage is about past. Soybeans, if you got some haylage, they will make good hay. They will strip graze. Sudex, if it's planted, it's probably got a lot of nitrate in it. Maybe not to graze it anyway if it's growing. I did bale a bunch of straw. I have fed my cows quite a bit of straw. I have wintered a lot of cows on corn stalks. I know we don't have a lot of corn in this area, but I can get along very well with it. Cover crops, if Callaway County is in it, how soon can I start planting them? I signed up here a couple weeks ago. We get the no-till drill ready to go, like where we cut silage off and everything. It will sure be in turnips, radishes, oats. I myself have planted a lot of cover crops and food plots for deers and everything else. In 2012, I think I planted almost 250 acres of turnips. If we get a rain, and what finally, if you guys went through 2012, you remember that hurricane coming in New Orleans. And it comes straight up that river, and all hurricanes usually turn and move that way. And I watched that thing, and I watched that thing till it got here, and we finally got some rain. It was a lifesaver. Hopefully something, wouldn't wish no hurricanes on nobody, but I hope it rains. Okay, so now, we've decided we've got some hay. We do not have enough hay. We have ways to stretch it. Even if we use corn, we can't feed all corn. So how are we going to do that? Okay, so one way that I've done a lot is unroll it. Now, when we unroll hay, I usually don't get in on much of the unrolling, but in the spring of the year, my thing slows down. I like to get out there and drag pastures. So when I go drag pastures with the big harrow, I can tell when they unroll too much hay, because behind that harrow, you start to see them little deals roll up. So I start looking back, and why do we have that? It's always the pastures that doesn't have the proper amount of cows to roll out of bale hay. And all that is waste. Now, we have gotten used to wasting so much hay. Because in this day and time, we sit in an air-conditioned tractor, we wait for the alarm to go off, so we push the clutch in to wrap the bale and kick it out. Now I remember, and I know younger brother Jim ain't much younger because we had fights in the hayfield. But back when we had to put all that hay in the barn and square bales, we valued hay a little more. We watched what hay we fed. We didn't throw a whole bunch out there. And I can still remember kind of the rule Dad had. You know, we probably had a 55, 60 pound square bale hay. If the cows had calves on them, you fed a bale for 2 cows. If they didn't, you fed a bale for 3 cows. And then cows always come through the winter in pretty good shape. Lots of places right now, we are feeding more than double that. They're not all eating it, but we're wasting it. Okay, so if you start on rolling hay, one thing you need to do is figure out how much hay's in the bale if you don't have enough to roll the whole bale out. And if you look here, that outer 6 inches has 1/3 of the hay in it. So that also tells you, with hay getting a little more valuable, take care of your hay. Now, one thing about it is, your hay you baled this year hasn't set out in enough weather to get too rotten. But in good years, take care of your hay. So that next 6 inches is 26. So about 60% of that hay is in that outside foot. That's on a 5-foot bale. Keep that in mind. Okay, so here's some hay I rode out to my cows a few years ago. And they're not going to have that luxury this year. You can see they've been cleaning it up pretty good. There's a little left there and everything. But that's too much hay rode out at one time. The calves really like it. The day I took his pictures, just fast I'd roll it out, boy, them calves got up there and started playing in it. And that's part of the trouble. Everything likes to tromp on it and everything else before they eat it. Let me go back and say something else about limiting hay. So there's different ways we can limit the amount of hay. We can put the right amount of cows out there every row. We feed them a bale. You got to have it rolled out. You can't just limit it by putting one bale on a feeder, because the boss cows are going to get it. I read something on the internet this morning and I researched it a little bit, and it might just work. I always like to try something before I talk about it. But this is something that might work for the guy that's got a job, doesn't want to mess with them cows. He's maybe doesn't want to run away from the buckets when they concentration enough to get mud. But they done some research over in Illinois, and they put the hay out and limited the time the cows ran to it. They had ran like a 3, 6, and 9 hour test. To do this, you would have to have enough bale feeders around them that when the cows went in to eat, they could all get to it. But you could take 2 pins, go ahead and turn them in there for probably, my guess is 4 or 5 hours. It's going to depend on how good your hay is. Have the other pin, when you turn them in there, go ahead and fill your buckets in the feeder or whatever you got over there. When it's time, just go back out there and call them cows. They're going to come running back out for that feed, close the gate, go on to the next day. I think that would work. One thing it's going to do for sure, and cows aren't sitting there with their head in the feeder all day and pulling it out and chewing around and doing that. I'm sure it would cut your waste a bunch. Some of you guys that don't have feeders or got bad feeders, it might pay for a good feeder pretty quick this year to have a good way to feed them. If you're big enough and you have a way to haul it out, if you can get, I forgot when Wendy had her hay there, but if you have a way to use that, that's a very good way to limit the amount of hay you feed. I try to look at stuff that's easy and economical to do. There's my silage pit from 12. And I said I'm not building another one of them, but Friday I did. So we kind of go on. Mr. Carl, I'll let you talk it. When I start to get worried, there's big words or something I might not be able to pronounce, I hand the mic.
So we put this slide up here just to give you guys some ideas, things to look out for. Molds in your hay, nitrates if you got any kind of Sudex, your corn stalks, your corn silage, anything like that, or if you're going to bale up corn stalks. go to the extension office and have them tested, get a forage test done. It takes about a week, and then they'll give you how many parts per million nitrates are in there. Alpha toxins are starting to get talked about if you're feeding corn or anything like that, but those can be mitigated by feeding some kind of a binder. So that's not too big of a deal. Test your hay. If you're going to be limit feeding, you need to know where it is. Straw and corn stalks probably don't change a whole lot, but your hay definitely will. The other thing that somebody was talking about too is if you're going to bale up some kind of crops, beans or something like that, and it's Liberty Link, Roundup Ready, things like that, you need to find out when it was sprayed last. So I was doing some research for some guys last week, and don't hold me to this, a lot of the labels are somewhere 45, 60 days you have to wait after it's been sprayed before you can feed it or graze it, and some of the labels say you can't even feed it or graze it, so just check with the chemical companies or your seed rep on that. So, but don't be buying any unless you know when it was sprayed. That's what happened. The guy bought it. We'll see how it turns out for him. Any questions on that?
Hey, I got a question. The Cutsmary Arrow got a lot of the foxtail coming back, and I know Johnson grass gets nitrate poisoning. Will that foxtail also, because it grows so rapidly, do you know?
Foxtail, no.
It won't.
Johnson grass, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. If it heads out, it's probably going to be okay, but you can still test it. Water him?
Water hemp tested. But I will tell you one thing, in a drought, grazing water hemp is tremendous. That stuff grows and cows like it. That's
Yeah.
I found a good use for water.
Yeah, we stopped at a guy's house today. They were baling up their foxtail. Stubble wheat and foxtail. Yes, sir.
Chopping good corn, you don't worry about nitrates and that, or do you?
Yeah, if you grain chop it, want to feed it the next day, there'll be nitrates buildup. If you put it in silage, normally the ensealing process will cut whatever nitrates is in there in half, so you don't have to worry about it. You can still have it tested. By all means, you're going to let it sit 30 days, just send the test off anyways. But
I mean, it's not really stress corn, it's, I would just kind of maybe bushy corn.
I would say it's all in how you chop it. If it's got a good ear on it and everything, there's less chances of it happening. But if you want to be 100% safe, then you have to have it tested. So, because even corn stalks, baled corn stalks, can have high nitrate levels.
Regardless of good corn or drought stress corn.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a lot worse. If you got 180 bushel corn, the chances of nitrate are a lot less because that nitrate's been used to produce that grain.
Yeah.
But what Carl's saying is we don't wanna tell you not to check it and come back to cause we got dead cows. You might have to be careful.
I got my boss here. I got to make sure I save the book value. So, have it tested if you're in question.